So it's 12 o'clock, and so we like to get things started on time. My name is Laura Camacho. I started Mixonian Institute in 2009, and it has the purpose of making the world better through better communication. Hey, Sarah, welcome. So I have a doctorate in communication, and I really am fascinated by why people listen to one person and not another, and how that plays out in power structures like you see in companies. And then today we're talking about like why the bad guys, the bullies, or the toxic people can get away with things. And Cindy is an expert. She's an HR expert. She founded Keystone HR Consulting. She is not a bully, but she knows what it's like to be on the receiving end of that. So she has both the technical expertise and she knows what it's like. She was even telling me as we were preparing for this, that just preparing the material brought back some really painful memories. So it is not fun to be on the receiving end of bullying or a toxic employee. But let's first start off with Cindy. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you started Keystone and what you do?
Sure. I am originally from Pennsylvania, and I've been here in Charleston for 22 years, and I worked for a local company, and after 17 years, I decided to leave. The environment was a little more intense than it was when it first started, so I left, and I started Keystone HR Consulting. I've got my master's in organizational psychology, and I'm certified with the Society for Human Resource Management.
All righty. Well, that's great. I know that Cindy is like the HR person for some really small companies, and then large companies outsource certain functions to her. But I want to start off really clarifying the difference between like a personality conflict, because sometimes you can just be that you don't like a certain person or they get on your nerves versus, a toxic person who like seems to be intentionally making your life miserable or trying to, stop you from progressing or having a good, like taking credit for what you've done or putting you down in public. What is the difference between somebody who's just annoying and somebody who's toxic?
First, it's important to know that not all conflict is bad.
Oh yeah, true.
It can really help when you're trying to problem solve. It brings different perspective.
Right.
When it's a personality conflict, it's more like, is the glass half full or half empty?
Mm-hmm.
You might not see it the same, but you remove the glass and you can get back on track.
Right.
With a truly toxic person, they're always going to be the same. They don't have the social boundaries or the social skills to recognize someone else's emotions.
Okay.
They have no emotional control. They really just don't see themselves the way that other people see them. And it's not where they have a conflict with one person.
Okay.
If the glass is half full or half empty, they have issues with everyone.
Okay. Or at least more than one person.
Yes.
Well, it's funny that in preparing this webinar and talking to some of our community out there, someone asked, well, what if you're the toxic person? How would you know that?
The fact that you could even ask yourself if you're a toxic person would make me think that you're not. Only because toxic people, they cannot see that. They don't have the foresight or the reflection to be able to make that kind of assessment.
All right, so everybody who signed up for this, you are not the toxic person. So you can sleep better tonight knowing it's not you. All right, so let's say that you're having trouble with somebody at work, that you're maybe not even sure if they're quote unquote toxic, but they seem to be like just putting you down, or just, they seem to be getting in your way, not supporting. Like what does that look like early on, and what can you do? Because that's really when you need to take action, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Laura, I would say that first, even before you take action, you should take some responsibility and know yourself.
Okay.
You need to do an assessment of yourself. You need to know what's important to you, what you value, what you can tolerate, how much risk you're willing to put into any situation.
Okay.
And if you're getting ready to maybe go work with a new company, interview the company. Ask the questions to get the information that's important to you so you can better understand the company and the people in the company.
So you can actually kind of filter some of that in the interviewing process?
You can ask the questions just like the employer is asking you questions. Ask the questions to get the information. If they give you the opportunity to meet with any of the people that you will be working with, take it.
And so you would actually ask, do you ever have bullies?
No, you wouldn't come right out and ask that. Ask about the culture.
Okay. Well,
that's right. Super important. You want to know about the culture and the relationships, like everybody get along, and you just kind of want to know, are you walking into something where everybody works together?
Okay. So the culture is a big indicator of what the environment is like for supporting bullies. Well, let's say that you're already employed, you like your job, you even like the company, but you're just in a situation with, you just feel like somebody is making your life hell. I mean, what can you do?
Well, again, do your assessment, get your emotions in check, and confront the person.
Okay.
But do it in a neutral environment, privately. A lot of times toxic people thrive on drama.
Okay.
So you don't want an audience.
Okay.
And you don't want them to, they'll automatically go on the defensive. So we want to avoid that. So communicate and tell them how their behaviors make you feel, and keep it focused on behaviors. Don't ever let it get to the point where you focus more on the person, because then you're making it personal, and that makes it worse.
Right. Can you give me an example, like the behavior versus the person kind of comment? It must be kind of hard to separate that.
It can be if you're not comfortable in recognizing things for what they are. So if someone comes at you and, they're starting the conversation with, a finger in your face, the way you would approach that is you would say, when you came in waving your finger, that made me feel that you invalidated my feelings were not important to you. And I found that offensive. That is not saying you are an offensive person. That is saying, this was
but what
offensive.
if I say, gosh, Cindy, I was just kidding. I mean, I just do that. What's wrong? Is that what bullies do?
Well, no, because they don't care enough to ask those questions.
Okay.
They just don't have that ability.
Right. Okay. So the first step, so what we've established so far is that, first of all, you want that if you're asking yourself if you're a toxic person, you're not. That when you're interviewing, you can get some feel for their tolerance of toxicity by inquiring about the culture. And the first thing you're going to do if you're in a situation where somebody is making your life difficult is to have a meeting with them where you address these behaviors that you do make me feel this way, and just at least, putting it out into the open. And then in this situation, Cindy, what do you do if it's your boss that you feel like they're micromanaging you, that they're screaming at you? Can you talk to your boss that way?
You can't. you can always have a conversation with your boss. You just have to understand that they don't have to have the conversation back.
Right.
And anytime you confront someone about how their behavior makes you feel, you always want to hold your ground in a respectful way. You want to not back down. Toxic people tend to thrive on weakness. Intimidation is part of their repertoire. That's their MO.
Okay.
And when you're working with a toxic person, if you've tried, the self-assessment, you've tried speaking with them, you hold your ground. Always model the behavior that you would like to have in return. If that's not working, then go speak with your boss and say, this is what's happened. This is how I've handled it. Be completely transparent with your boss about how you're trying to communicate with this other person, and ask for a team meeting.
Okay.
And when you do that, you're asking for everyone to receive the same communication, so nobody is feeling singled out. And just kind of regroup, remind everybody what the expectations are, hold everybody accountable. Because essentially, following culture and following rules, it has to be top down.
Right. So if you're having troubles with your boss, would you go, after you've tried to talk to your boss, would you go to your boss's boss, or would you go to HR, or do you just give it up now? What are your options, really?
When it's the boss that's toxic, which unfortunately is 72% of people do have the issues with the boss being the toxic person.
Okay, so it's not that 72% of the people are toxic, but of the toxic people, they tend to be the boss. And why is that? That's terrible.
It's awful. And when they behave that way, they really can't ask why they're having so many retention issues.
Oh, okay.
But again, toxic people always want to put the blame on someone else. They never have self-accountability.
Right. So that's like a hallmark, not the lack of self-awareness. And then when somebody points out to them, they are like, no, that's this other person's fault.
But one thing that an employee can do is try to remember that toxic people are most likely a product of their environment or a past experience.
Okay.
And they behave that way because they need to for themselves.
Okay.
It's a deep-seated issue that they don't recognize.
Right. From their childhood maybe, or something.
Right. And I mean, it turns into a whole psychology thing.
Right. But like, you don't care. You just want to do your job and not be, called on the carpet in an ugly way.
And the sad thing is, we're with people that we work with probably a lot more than we are with our own families.
So true.
And it totally throws the work-life balance off, and we tend to carry it home with us, and then it affects our health. And
so true. There's a lot of cost in all that you're saying.
Right. And companies start noticing absenteeism going up, and the cost of hiring a single toxic person into an environment of 20 non is a three times as much. The average cost to hire per good employee is about $4,000.
Oh my goodness.
So one bad apple
really can have a ripple effect, a negative ripple effect.
So how can a company prevent that? Make better hiring decisions. Use assessment tools like the PXT Select.
What is that? I don't know what that is. Some people may not know what that is.
It's an assessment tool that you can use during recruiting, onboarding. You can use it to assess team dynamics, to put people who have personalities that might have just the right amount of conflict that would be healthy. You can use it as a coaching tool for managers and employees if there's some communication issues going on. To help with that. But as far as HR, the very first thing they can do is be proactive. And make those better hiring decisions. Have the policies, handbooks done, and have a strong company culture. And practice it from the top down.
All right. And we're going to continue to talk about what HR can and cannot do, but since you know how these things tend to go by so quickly, if anybody has questions, you can start typing them in the chat. And she'll be able, you got this awesome HR former bullied person at work to ask questions in a safe space, because we don't put up with bullying or any kind of toxicity at Smithsonian Institute. All right, so tell us, what can HR do or not do? Let's say that they weren't proactive, or somehow people slipped in under the cracks, been there a long time. What can you do?
You can go to HR. First thing is whenever you go to HR with a complaint,
Mhm.
they should have a process, a reporting
Okay.
procedure, how to
Okay.
file a complaint.
Right. Like HR is going to say, did you address this person?
Right. And it's always better if it's not a violent situation to try address it on your own.
Right.
I mean, we're all
Right.
adults. We kind of left high school and
Right.
grade school years ago.
Right.
So we should behave like adults.
Right.
And
just,
you know, attempting to work it out on your own
Mhm.
shows respect,
Mhm.
shows consideration, maturity,
Right.
and you don't want to be the tattletale.
Right.
And
right.
I think that is how a lot of people see it, and that prevents a lot of people from reporting issues. And
Right.
if they don't get a sense that anything's going to be done about it,
Yeah, but you're
Right.
making me think, from a communication point of view, that's what I would call a critical conversation, because a critical conversation by definition is one where the stakes are high. Like, it's not like we're not talking about pass the salt or something of very little consequence. We're talking about the effect of somebody's life at work. And there's differing opinions. So it's always going to be scary, but you can definitely, there's things you can do to definitely channel and structure the conversation. It's not going to be fun, but you can get through it. And it is I think it's a good practice. At least you put things out in the open, and that gives it a lot better chance of getting better.
right. So if you find yourself, you're now going to
Yes,
HR.
going to HR.
Right.
Yikes.
They should do an investigation.
Okay.
They should, look into it and, be transparent again, with HR. This is what I've done. This is, what has happened, what hasn't happened as a result. And they should communicate, pull that person in, have a session, find out what's wrong, give them an improvement track that focuses on their positive qualities.
Clearly they have them, right? Because they're being tolerated and, as you said, promoted. So they're delivering value, right?
They have skills that the employer finds valuable.
Right.
So focus on those. When you do that, it's essentially like a distraction from all the background noise that they want to just target. And they're uncomfortable.
Oh, okay. That should be a good thing.
That's what it is. They're uncomfortable. They pick on people to make themselves feel better.
Oh, okay.
So there's something going on, and one of the things that HR can try to do is see if there is an underlying cause, or is there something going on at home? Are you having issues that you're bringing into the workplace instead of, taking work home, you're bringing home to work. Right. And that can cause a lot of
And are companies practicing coaching in these situations? Are coaching to the HR people, or do they bring in? I'm just curious. Is that a possible avenue
to speak with the toxic people? Yeah, I mean, they can work with them. They can coach. They can give guidance. They can do feedback sessions. Assess. Periodically check in, but you never want to single somebody out and to where everybody else knows, because then the gossip mill goes around.
Right.
So it's all got to be done confidentially and discreetly, and always praise the positive behavior. Right. Well, I mean, that's positive reinforcement. Right. That's a good communication trick, leadership. Right. And then if all else fails and HR, there's no improvement and they've exhausted their efforts, then it's time to speak with management and work on a separation. But when do you know, as the employee, like, this is not going anywhere? I mean, that happens, that you go to HR and they're like, oh yeah, we're going to work on it. Don't you worry. Oh, and yeah, we've heard this before. Oh, don't take it so seriously. When do you know that this is not going to get any better? It's kind of like being in an abusive relationship. It's learned helplessness is the term. Oh, okay. Where you learn that that's the way it is, and nothing, you just can't change it. It's just going to be that way. And you just start to like a turtle with its shell, you just kind of pull yourself in.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to remember that you need to take care of yourself first.
Oh, for sure. Well, we've got a question. I want to on this similar topic. The question is, what if you've gone to your boss and HR about certain people who are on leadership too, of course, and one or both smooth over and make excuses for that person's behavior, and then HR makes generalizations about how they're trying to take steps to improve, but it seems like nothing is ever being done about it. The toxicity continues, as does the rippling effect. Oh, I'm so sorry. That sounds miserable.
The toxicity is like a virus. It spreads. And
how does that work, though?
Well,
why would you want to pick that up?
Well, it's
just a tolerance.
It's everything rolls downhill, and it's like, okay, somebody punched you, so you just punch the next person.
Okay, it's right. What we see that as acceptable behavior, and that it seems to be working. And
exactly, if it's not being addressed and it's not being stopped, then that is essentially becoming the new culture.
Right.
If the top people aren't doing anything about it, and if the top people are causing it or overlooking.
So you would say, I don't want to say your name because it's a safe space, that there's not much hope. That doesn't sound like it.
If it's leadership, did I understand correctly?
Yeah, she said it's about certain people, because it's more than one, and they're in leadership, and that HR is just making excuses and generalizations, saying that they're working on it, but this person is not seeing any results.
How long has it been?
Y'all leadership. Can you tell us how long has this been going on?
Because a lot of times, like if you've got a culture and there's something defective in the way you're doing things, and you don't make that change right away, and every time you bring new people in, you're on a wash, rinse, repeat cycle. You are just you're spreading that virus. You're just putting it back out there because you didn't fix it before you brought someone new in. So you're just teaching everyone else
that this is how we do business here.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh. She says it's been going on a year or two.
That's unacceptable.
Yeah. You're preaching to the choir.
Yeah. It's not, chances are a year or two and nothing has been done. Nothing has changed. It's not going to.
Okay. So let's say, this person has a choice. I'll assume that she's been there, that she likes her job, she likes the company, she likes what she does. So how would you help her make the decision of, do I stay or do I go? How can I take care of myself so that I'm not, hurting myself or bringing this home? Is there a way to containerize this toxicity so it doesn't infect you and your life?
You can do your absolute best. Someone very important to me once told me that nobody else in this world is strong enough to control how you feel.
Right. Okay.
Only you can.
Right.
So you know your limits. You know what you can take. You know what your responsibilities outside of work are. Why are you working? Why are you there? Is it necessity? Are you, doing it just to fill time? Kind of have to and see where you are at your point in life. And make the decision from there. One thing that I realized is when I was making the decision to stay or go, I wasn't able to focus on my resume. I wasn't going to interview well because it was there. Like it became consuming.
It sounds like a mental illness, like it sounds terrible.
It's actually like a PTSD.
Right.
It's very like just having to think about doing this.
Yeah.
It does. It brings up, having to deal with certain personalities and experience that you have to recognize that you're going to have, if you decide to leave, it may.
Yeah, you probably need some time to recuperate before going out to talk to other companies. And then if, let's say that you leave and you're interviewing at another company and they say, hey, why did you leave XYZ? It's such a great company. Would you say in an interview?
you never want to speak badly
Yeah.
of your past employer.
Yeah. All right. We've got another question. What is your advice for someone who needs to talk to the toxic person one-on-one when they are a peer? I realize this is the first thing that needs to be done, but it's not easy. That's for sure. It is not easy. So I'll let our guests address that. And then I can add to that probably, but you're the expert on this.
When the first thing to do when speaking to
a peer who is a toxic person.
Just maybe keep notes.
Mm-hmm.
And when you go to have the conversation, again, make sure it's in a neutral location and no one else is around, and keep your emotions in check. If you start to feel your fight or flight kicking in,
right,
and you're not sure which way it's going to go, give yourself a timeout.
Right.
And don't come back until you've calmed down.
Right.
Because when you let the situation get out of control or your emotions take over, then the conversation could be more personal instead of behavior focused.
Right. Right.
But let them know how their behavior is affecting you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm just going to jump in a little bit since I teach critical conversations on a pretty regular basis. And although this is not the normal scenario that I use in teaching that, but definitely you want to start off by stating the purpose. Like, I'm not in here, let's say that Cindy is my toxic person. Like, Cindy, I'm not here because you're driving me crazy, even though you are. I want to talk to us about us working better together because I'm having trouble with some of these behaviors that I'm seeing, but I really value you as a person, you as a professional. And I think there's so much more potential for our relationship that we could both, contribute better. And I just know maybe these things aren't bothering you, but they're bothering me. So really setting the stage of what the goal of this conversation is the first thing. So that, and there's a tool called contrasting. And in critical conversations, it's really good. Or anytime people are likely to throw mud at you, say, oh, you're just doing this. Oh, you're just trying to put me down. To use this contrasting tool to say, what I want is for us to work better together. And I want to have a better relationship with you. And I want us to be more productive. What I don't want is to make you feel bad. And I don't want this to, destroy our relationship. But what I want and what I don't want in any kind of critical situation, critical conversation, is a good way to help the conversation not go to, oh, you're, that defensive thing. You're just attacking me. I feel attacked. So I want, I don't want, and then, going through. You want to add to that?
Ask for feedback.
Oh, okay.
Is there something that I can do?
Oh, that's yes. That's
make yourself, you're willing, you want this to work.
Right.
And if there's something that you're doing that makes them behave a certain way.
Right.
What can I do to change?
Right.
So we can get
that's a great point. And that's really true. I think for any kind of peer-to-peer criticism, or as constructive as it would be, is like, I'm going to tell you this because if I were you, I would want you to tell me. And so if you see something that I'm doing, because we all have our blind spots, please let me know in a gentle way, because I'm a fragile soul, as we all are inside. That's a great point. So just before we go, we just have a couple minutes. So if you have a question, you need to speak now or forever hold your peace. I want you to know that Cindy Borrelli of Keystone HR Consulting, she's been working on a white paper and she's going to send you a copy of it. It's not quite ready. You want to tell them what they can expect to find in this white paper?
A lot of what we've gone over today, and some extra little tidbits and facts, statistics.
Okay. Yeah, we both did some research. Of course, this is really her area of expertise, but it turns out that 4 out of 5 people have worked or are currently working for a toxic person. And it seems like, my feeling is that they thrive more in large organizations. Is that a generalization, or do you know if that's actually true?
Well, just you have more people.
More people to bother. Yay!
So it's kind of, With the unemployment rates being so low,
right,
employers really need to make sure that they're getting the right people in there and that they've got a strong culture and there's the accountability. And it's really, really important that they make the changes if they need to, but keep in mind that everything does have to come from the top. You can't be an army of one and go in and change the way a company works, because you're setting yourself up for failure right from the beginning.
Right. Well, they say fish rots from the head. Well, that's definitely true. But it is an opportunity to ask for sessions to improve the culture, to ask for training, to address it on a structural level. Because as Cindy pointed out, it's really the culture that allows this kind of behavior to happen. And sometimes it's such I've seen some companies, like their values are this hyper competitiveness that leads to toxicity and less nurturing. I like my feedback to be nurturing. So our time is up. I thank you all for being on our webinar, and I hope you have a great time, a great rest of your week. It's Tuesday. Cindy's going to send you a white paper. You can get her help with the assessments. You're welcome. Thank you for coming, Katie and Melanie. We're excited. You can look up Cindy on LinkedIn, Keystone HR Consulting. Her last name is Borrelli, Cindy Borrelli. And you know me, so have a great week. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.